Welcome back to another week of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, brought to you by our friends at Conway Furniture. That's Highway 86, east end of Listowel. Our friends at Larry Hudson, Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, and of course, the Listowel Squash Courts. I'm Ryan Drury. That's Clarkey. We're very pleased to be joined by a special guest, a good friend of ours, a guy who everybody in Midwestern Ontario should know. And if you don't, you'll get to know him now. He is a beauty, our friend, the voice of cool 94.5 in the mornings. You know this guy. Come on, it's Phil Main. Mr. Main, how are you?
Hi, guys. I'm up and dressed and feeling pretty great. This is awesome. I love your podcast, so it's kind of a treat for me. It's kind of a treat.
That's fantastic.
You're the guy who loves it. We knew there was one out there.
There's one. It's me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I knew someone was leaving 5-star reviews. That's good, man. No,
you know what I don't like is I don't like you got all the fun stuff behind you, and I got this gray brown wall or whatever color.
It needs painting too. It's kind of
it really does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Well, you know what?
Works better this way.
Get on that.
I used to paint, so I could come by.
Don't volunteer, Ryan. You know what'll happen.
I could come by and we'll talk about life and we'll figure it all out as we paint the wall anew. But you don't need any fancy stuff, Phil, because we just want to look at you. You're the focus here.
That's too bad.
And there's a lot of ground to cover because I know you're a Packers fan, and we had our buddy Joe Bowen on last week who was very excited about the Packers, but we'll touch on that in a minute because their season came to a tough end, and we know. But we want to touch on the Leafs because we had mentioned also last week, and Clarkey made a point to point out that, you know, our buddy Phil is a big Leaf fan too, and we should have him on. How are you feeling about the team, not only this year, but the last few years where it's just been a lot of stubbing their toe, it seems, Phil?
You said the last few years. You mean my entire life since the 60s is what you mean.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want you to judge me, but here's the truth. I haven't quite jumped on the Leaf bandwagon yet because it's early and it's still football season to me. I didn't give the Packers much of an opportunity early in the season, too. First half of the season, I was kind of like, we're losing again. And I don't know. I'm one of those guys, I guess, that scrapes my knee a lot, jumping up and off and on the bandwagon. I do have some very close friends, including the two of you that are, well, one of you that's a huge Leaf fan. And one of you, for some reason, cheers for some team in the States somewhere. Washington. Yeah.
He's going to show us the cup. Well, he'll get the cup. He'll show us the cup. He's got that on us.
You want to see the cup?
Yeah, there we go. See, there we go.
Well, here, first off, you got to get the Stanley Cup champion.
Oh, man.
Puck that's sitting on it. I'll get the cup out at any old excuse, boys. I got no problem getting the cup out.
Well, how incredible is it going to be when we can do that?
I'm hoping it happens in my lifetime. I don't know about you. We're getting old, Clarkey.
Yeah, don't remind me.
I think it can happen. That's the problem with the Leafs is it's like, I compare it sometimes to golf. You know, where you go out and you hit a shot and it's like 300 yards right down the middle and you're thinking, oh, this is it. And then, you know, you're 12 over on that hole. You get these guys playing so great and you're feeling so good about it. And then the next game, you're wondering where they went. And, you know, you get to the playoffs and you think, this is our year. And then suddenly it isn't. I mean, we can't be the only team in the NHL that goes through that, can we? Are there other teams that
100%?
Yeah, there's other teams that might have it worse, believe it or not. But yeah, I think the reason that it's so pronounced with your Maple Leafs is because of the lack of success for such a historic team. They've been around for so long that it almost seems unfathomable to people that it's been this long since they've won a championship. I mean, yes, Buffalo has had their struggles and they continue to be mired in mediocrity. And yeah, Edmonton went through it for a while there, but Edmonton was fantastic in the 80s and early 90s. So, I mean, they don't have the same kind of cachet of pain, if you will. So I think that's why it's so much more pronounced. They're an original six team. And like you said, Phil, I mean, everybody knows that. I don't need to say the year, but it's been a long, long time, man. when you look back, because we're in the middle of this, kind of Matthews, Marner, Nylander era, if you will. But when you look back prior to that, what are some crushing moments that you can remember in Leaf history when you were growing up that still stick out to you?
I forget the year, but we made the playoffs and Philadelphia bounced us, I think, into game 6 or 7.
2000.
And I was a much younger human at the time, and it broke my heart. I couldn't believe it.
That was
and I hated Philadelphia. Yeah,
everybody did, because they were villains. That Jeremy Roenick was such a pest that series. Him and Darcy Tucker were trying to take chunks out of each other. Yeah, I remember that one too, and the subsequent years surrounding that. Of course, I mean, Clarkey, like 2 years later, they went to the conference final and they lose to Jeff O'Neill and the Carolina Hurricanes. O-Dog scoring that goal in overtime in game 3, I believe it was, against his childhood team. And the thing about that I remember that was so crushing was the Leafs would probably have won that series if they weren't so injured. Everybody was hurt.
Mm-hmm. True story. When I was a kid, though, last time the Leafs won the cup, I was 8 years old. I was not a Leafs fan. I was a Bruins fan.
Why?
Huge Bruins fan, because I had a paper route. I lived on Mary Street in Goderich, and I had a paper route, and Gary Doak was on my paper route. And I loved Gary Doak. He played the years when they won the cups back in the early 70s. Same teams as Bobby Orr. And I used to collect for the newspaper, and it was like I was in the presence of royalty. And he used to keep a little brandy snifter at his front door, and he would fill it with change. And so back in that time, I think the paper was $1.25 a week or something like that. And he would just empty all of his change into my little change bag. So sometimes I get $3, $4, $5 on a $1 subscription. So he was really generous. And one time when I was collecting, he for this newspaper, he said, "Phil, what are you doing on Saturday?" And I said, "I'm just hanging out with my friends." He said, "You and your friends should come down to St. George's Church around," I forget what time it was. And so I dragged my friends down there on our bikes. We were like 9, 10 years old at the time, I think. And the door swung open to the church, and there he was. He'd just gotten married, standing there with his new bride. And my friends are going, "Oh, big deal. It's just a guy got married." I said, "That's Gary Doak." And they went, "Oh." And then after him, he went like this, and behind him, Esposito, Cheevers, Bobby Orr, Cashman, Busick, the whole team was there. And that's when I started going to church, because I thought, if that's what's in there. So, and they all came out. So they all signed autographs for us and were, rubbing us on the head going, "Hey guys, how's it going?"
Amazing.
So, yeah.
That's cool. That's a cool story. That I don't think would ever happen nowadays.
No, couldn't not be a Bruins fan, right? No.
But how did you ever transform into a Leaf fan? Because like the Bruins, that was their heyday back in the early 70s.
It was. I think, I grew up and I left Goderich, and eventually, just sort of slowly, all of my friends were Leaf fans. A few people I didn't like were Canadians fans. Yeah. And same. It took on that, it got to be more fun, and we could go more easily then to a Leafs game. I don't know how you go now, but
Ryan probably doesn't even know the story, but when I was a kid and I was in like a clinic for hockey, I don't know, I was like 7, 8 years old maybe, and we had to get black jersey. They told us to get a black jersey, and I wore a Bruins jersey at hockey every week for years, but I never wore it outside of hockey. But as you know, big Leaf fan. Hey, when Aaron Rodgers left Green Bay, how did you feel the team was going to do?
I thought that they might suffer a little bit for a few years. I was, as you know, a pretty big Aaron Rodgers fan at one point, but his antics of the last year or two have kind of made me go, "Aaron, be quiet." Yeah. Jeez. I love Jordan Love. I think he's going to be, Green Bay has this history of making huge quarterbacks for some reason. I hope he stays humble. I love the way he scrambles around. I love the way he throws. from the pot. Like, he stands there, it seems like forever, and still gets a perfect throwaway. And that just that blows me away. So I love the dynamic he set up with some of his receivers. Doesn't seem like he has a favorite every week. It's just, Yeah. So the team is young, right? They're very young.
They're the
so
youngest team.
For them to have gone as far as they did this year, I still think is kind of spectacular, and I have big hopes.
So I sort of relate that to the Leafs, because everyone says something's going to happen. They're never going to win with this chemistry the way it is. A Mitch Marner, who's a superstar, no doubt about it. But I've said it all along on this show, they can succeed without Mitch Marner. And I think eventually they might have to. Do you think the makeup of this team, the Leaf team, is championship caliber, and can they win with these guys?
I think it all goes back to that for one word that you just mentioned, and that's chemistry. I've never been much of a believer in you need a superstar to win the Stanley Cup. I think you need super chemistry to win a Stanley Cup. And you can have a bunch of guys that are really great, but if they click, it goes back to, all the sort of cliche stories about Gretzky not being the greatest at any one thing, but he had a sense, and he created some chemistry with the guys he played with, and that's what made him so great. And I'm hardly the person to ask for a professional opinion on that, but just from the sidelines, that's what I see. It's just guys that know each other and can play like a family rather than one guy that's always sticking out, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that right or wrong?
Well, no, I agree
go ahead,
with the
Ryan.
sentiment. I agree with the sentiment, obviously, because that's typically what you hear when teams win. Yes, you need really good players. Let's just be honest, in any sport, you need some big dogs to make that game-breaking play every now and again. But it doesn't matter if the big dogs do that and everybody else on the roster isn't there doing their job, doing the little things to break up a 2-on-1, make a great defensive play physical. Leafs, you listening? Physical, throw some hits, wear down the other team's defense. It doesn't matter if you don't have all of the ingredients. Having one or two great players that can score nifty goals is not going to finish it for you. So you're absolutely right, Phil. And that's the main knock against this team, no matter what we talk about, their salaries, their points, their lack of points, bad goalie, whatever. All of it ultimately doesn't matter unless they put it together 23 men deep throughout an entire 4-round run. And as of yet, they have proven that they are not at all near capable of doing that.
Yeah. If you compare it to, you think I keep thinking about football, but a story I read a few years ago about who the second highest paid guy on a football team is. Like, usually the highest paid guy is your quarterback, and the second is, and I forget the name of the position, and I couldn't name one, but it was brought to the forefront with Michael Orr in that movie, The Blind Side. Second highest paid guy is the guy that protects the quarterback, and so it really is a team effort. It's not just about what good is a Mitch Marner if he's got nobody to play with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you need your, especially, generally your right-handed quarterback, most of them need that left tackle to, protect the blind side. That's what it is. It's your blind side. And that's why you typically read stories every year, when the team does well, the quarterback will buy all of his linemen, new suits or Rolexes or something, right?
Exactly.
Tom Brady always got his guys watches, new iPods, whatever they wanted, right? Because those guys are the ones making sure that people aren't chopping him down at the knees. I want to ask you as well about the Packers. Where did that fandom come from? How did you fall in line with the Pack crew?
Okay, this is weird. It doesn't make any sense. Once upon a time, I was doing a morning show on our sister station, CKNX. It was a talk information format, and I created this bit called Phil's Aleatoric Adventure, which just means random. And I used to fake throw darts at a board, like a map of the world, and wherever the dart landed, I would try to call somebody there, like a tourist group or, the town council or somebody. And one time it landed on Green Bay. And so I ended up calling their, somebody in their municipal offices there. And we got talking about Green Bay. And she said she was sitting, like, she was a tourism person. And she said she was sitting in her office looking down into Lambeau Field from where her office was. She said, I could see right in it. And I asked her a question about Brett Favre because he was their quarterback and kind of making some bad news at that time. And she said, don't you say anything bad about my Brett or about my Brett. I'll come up there. I went, okay, all right. And I started watching Green Bay a little bit because she got me excited about the team and about they're rabid fans there.
Oh,
man, they love their team. Oh, yeah. And so I got a little bit excited and started following the team. And then I started reading about some of the history that goes with the team. And I loved that old stadium. And I thought, it's just, I don't know. It's just.
That's a wild story.
I actually like that. You know what? That's one of the better fandom stories I've ever heard. I like that a lot. Yeah, and you're right, man. The Cheesehead Nation, dude, like that's one of the smallest markets in North American sports. Forget the NFL. And man, they're diehard. Like the Packers are dug in. They're not going anywhere, dude. And the fans own just shy of 50% of the team. It's community ownership.
Have you been to a game?
Joe Bowen.
I have not. And
because we know an owner. We know an owner.
What?
Yeah, we know. We're friends with
Joe Bowen. Joe Bowen and his boys.
Owns a piece.
They have a piece. No. They got shares.
Yeah.
Well, introduce the fellow, would you?
Exactly.
Nah.
We'll get you down there. We'll have to drag you down there someday when maybe.
I've never been to an NFL game, let alone Lambeau.
I've been to a few, and it's a lot of fun, man. Like it's a good time, and you should get down there. Maybe we'll line it up where they're playing my Patriots, and we can watch them wax the Patriots for 4 quarters because they're really bad.
I knew you. You like the Patriots?
Huge Pats fan. Pats fan. Even so now, sorry. Even when they're bad.
He's just not as vocal now. We don't hear it as much.
I'm plenty vocal. I'm very excited about the draft. We're going to draft a good player. I'm excited about our new head coach. I'm very excited.
Who's your new head coach again?
Gerard Mayo. Gerard Mayo.
Where's Belichick gone? Where's he taking his frumpy, grumpy face?
Buffalo.
Buffalo? No.
People seem convinced that Sean McDermott's safe. I don't know that he should be, especially given the defensive performance. And that's Uncle Bill's thing. So that's a sneaky one. He's talked to Atlanta surprisingly quite a bit, which you didn't have a quarterback in New England. I don't know what you're going to get out of Atlanta, but they got a lot of money. They got a lot of money down there. I don't think he'll go to LA. Washington, is a possibility, but wherever he lands, they will instantly be better. No question about that. But I'm excited about Gerard Mayo, Super Bowl winner with the team, played a lot of hard years as a linebacker, was a linebackers coach for Uncle Bill. And now he's taking over, and he's the first black head coach in team history. It's very exciting. It's really, really cool. I'm excited. I'm still very excited about the Patriots. And honestly, guys, if they never win another Super Bowl again, I don't care. They won 6, and I saw all 6 of them. So
there you go. There you go.
It really doesn't bother me. Phil, speaking about seeing things, taking in information, chatting with people, telling stories. Let's talk a bit about your podcast. You have a podcast that you started, and it's doing really, really well. A lot of people are excited about it. Tell everybody about your podcast, so right when they're done watching this, they go and find your podcast, A Life That's Good.
All right. It's turned into a lot more than I thought it was going to be honest with you. A little more than a year ago, I realized, in radio, how you get to an end of 1 year and that meeting is coming up where the boss is going to say, so what are you doing next year? How are you taking everything to the next level? And I had started a photo blog, and I was just going to go to some of the places I love in Midwestern Ontario because I absolutely love living here. I really do. And take some pictures and write a little bit more in-depth photo blog on the place. And my PD at the time said, hey, maybe that would make a great podcast. And I went, oh God, can I? Because I would love to do that. So I realized I was coming up on a date, and it's been almost a year. March 21st of last year was 65 weeks until I turned 65 years old. So I thought I'm going to do a 65 before 65 challenge and try to go to 65 places or talk to 65 people that I think are great in Midwestern Ontario. And so that's what we did. And we called it A Life That's Good. And it has been a real riot. I've learned so much, got to know so many people at a different level. Everybody from theaters to, we've got some sports. I think we have Justin Peters coming on.
Nice. Incredible. Yeah.
In a week or two. So that'll be fun.
Of the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah. We're just about to load up a Jim Cuddy interview, Blue Rodeo. He's going to be in Blythe. We're talking about the Blythe Hall and Blue Rodeo. That's going up this week still. And just local people that are not names that everybody knows, but they're kind of heroes to a lot of people. So
incredible. Well, that's it. That's a near guarantee that Clarkey and I will never be on the show.
No, I was thinking that we need to try to do that. I've got till June.
Okay,
so,
there you go.
And then we'll see where it goes from there. But
squeeze us in at like the second last episode.
Exactly.
Yeah, not the last episode. We can't be on the last.
No. That's funny, man. No, A Life That's Good. It's easy to find too. You post it all over your socials. It's on Spotify. It's on everything, man. You can find it anywhere.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm proud of you, man. I know when you first kind of came to me with the idea, I was stoked for it, and you're doing really well for yourself with it, man. It's a lot of fun.
You, my friend, are both of you are great encouragers, and you've been a lot of help too. You are. That's important to people like us, I think, to hear from someone, especially someone in the business, somebody who's doing it, who can, listen and advise in a productive way and encourage you to keep going with it. That's been important. So thanks for that.
You used to have a sports show in the morning, Sports with Somebody. It was really good.
Yeah, I forget. Was that it
too?
Yeah.
It was good. I might have appeared on that a couple times when certain someone was away. Yes.
It was good. I miss it a lot. We should bring it back. Get a sponsor.
It's way better than having to work with Ryan.
No. I could do both. Do both. Yeah, it's all good. And how long have you been at that radio station? Building.
On Cool? Oh, in the building?
No, how long have you worked there?
My first go around was 1980.
Wow.
For about 3 years. And then I left for 4 or 5 years and went back to school, started a band, did some stuff, and then came back here in 1990. So I'm in 34 years.
Yeesh. That's incredible. That is really incredible. And I know we were, I think we were at Cowbell or something together. People know you're on the radio, but there's one thing you're famous for. More than anything else. And because they're a big sponsor of our show, I think you have to at least say it once here today. So over to you. Go.
Conway Furniture, Highway 86, just east of Listowel.
There we go. Everyone wants you to say that, eh? Everybody does. It's great.
You know that was cup back out. That's a Stanley Cup commercial. That's a Stanley Cup commercial by Phil Main.
Do you know how that started?
No.
Doing a remote at Conway, and I think it was 30 years ago. And the salesman said, "Can you interview Paul, the owner of the store?" And I said, "Sure, send him over." He comes over and he said, "What should I do? What shouldn't I do?" I said, "Just don't become announcer boy." And he said, "What's announcer boy?" And I heard in my ear, them going, "Okay, Phil, in 5. I said, "Don't do this." And I went, "Conway Furniture, Highway 86. And he started to laugh. And then I kept doing it and he kept laughing and we started to have fun. And then people started coming in the store and saying, "You should do those all the time." And so we did. And it's been like 30 years. It's crazy.
It was always fun. Like when I was production manager there, it was fun recording it. It was just, that fun 15 minutes of the day.
Well, he's a great guy. He really is.
Absolutely.
Well,
that's another example of chemistry. Neither one of us is God's gift to broadcasting or announcing or the voices or anything.
Well, Clarkey is, but
Clarkey. But I mean, between me and Paul, we're friends, so we get along. We like each other. So
HST and delivery
how the
included.
Best stuff's made. Yep. Yeah. HST delivery included, ladies and gentlemen. Come on. Never forget.
Take the old one away.
Forget. Yes. That's punctuated by our buddy Phil Main. Absolutely. Yeah. Phil, We really appreciate you doing this, brother. It's so much fun to have you on the show, man. It just feels like a bunch of old friends chatting, man. And go check out A Life That's Good, Phil's podcast. You're going to learn so much about Midwestern Ontario, man. If you love it as much as the three of us, that's a must listen. Phil, thanks so much for doing this, pal. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, friends. My pleasure.
We're going to get you back on when the Leafs win the cup.
Yes, please.
We should. We'll do a big party, I promise.
Yes.
You can visit the
Don't
graveyard.
roll your eyes. He rolled his eyes. Don't roll your eyes.
No, I
Come
did.
on.
There's something in them.
Oh,
Anyway. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Ryan, brought to you by our friends at Conway Furniture, Larry Hudson Chevrolet Buick GMC, and of course the Listowel Squash Courts. Ryan Drury back here with Clarkey. Very pleased to be joined by another great guest on the show this week. Longtime pro goaltending coach, spent time with the Maple Leafs, and is now at Future Pro Goaltending School. They're doing clinics all across Southern Ontario right now. Steve McKichan. Steve, how are you, man?
Good, and you get props for pronouncing my name right. Very rarely do people pronounce that right.
Well, I'm the host of the show. I mean, Clarkey would fire me if I didn't pronounce your name right, Steve. Come on, my job's on the line.
He played a
here.
game in the NHL, Ryan. You got to get his name right, or a period.
That's
Was it a
what
period,
that's
Steve?
right.
Pete McNabb didn't even get it right for New Jersey when he was calling the game. He called me McKitchen. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen.
Here we go.
Atrocious. Maybe works as a nickname, but we're going to say your name right, Steve. I want to ask you right now, just your general, impression of the goaltending position in the NHL right now. We've seen the average save percentage dip the last number of years. Do you think that it is because of a lack of elite talent at the position right now, or is it more tied into them shrinking the equipment over the last couple of years? What are you seeing from goaltenders across the NHL right now, Steve?
Well, I think it's not related to the goalies being worse. I think it's more just, the shooters are better. They're getting way more skilled coaches. They got way better sticks. So even a fourth line bender can launch an 85-mile-an-hour snapper pretty accurately with the new sticks. So I think it's more related to that than the lack of goaltending ability. It's not goaltending. It's the shooters and the offensive skills coaches that are really helping them explore weaknesses. And I think a lot of goalies maybe are getting burned on stuff like RVHs on corner shots and stuff. But generally speaking, the goaltending's strong, and it's more the offensive players.
We've seen a lot of hip injuries the last number of years, knee injuries, groin injuries, and there's been a lot of talk about that RVH that you referenced and some maybe alternatives to try and save some of these guys' joints longer and longer into their careers. What are you seeing in terms of the way guys are playing positionally right now that may be leading to some of those injuries more often? And what can some of these guys do to maybe mitigate some of those, Steve?
Well, the RVH would be a part of it, but the butterfly itself is also part of it. So like concussions in football, hip surgeries are the cost of doing business for goalies. So there's nothing you can do. You're not going to go back and play stand-up goal anymore. So hip surgeries are just the cost of doing business with being a goalie.
Let's dive right into the Maple Leaf situation here and the seemingly turnaround. I know it's only been 2 games, but Ilya Samsonov has performed admirably the last 2 games, stole the game Wednesday night against Winnipeg when the team played like crap, let's be honest. What do you think has happened to him? Is it all in his head? And do you think he's straightened out, or do you see positionally him playing better as well?
I don't know, a lot positionally has changed. He's a talented goalie. He's an NHL goalie, big kid, moves well. And the goalie coach of the Leafs and the mental staff there have got him back on the right page. And goalies, they'll vacillate between confidence and not confidence. So it was clearly a confidence thing. But generically speaking, the Leafs are going to be late missing the playoffs or be out in the first round because of their goaltending and defensive structure. They'll score a bazillion goals. Austin will get his 70. Marner and everybody will score a whole bunch. But they don't have any of those 3 goalies or the defensive structure to take them to the promised land. So this will be a rinse and repeat, just like every year. We're in the same Twilight Zone Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. We'll have fun. They'll tease us. And then it'll be a first rounder or just slightly miss the playoffs because of the goaltending and because of the defensive structure.
in your
Ryan's
opinion,
gonna jump all over this. Ryan will jump all over this one.
No,
You will.
I
I
don't
know
want to
you will.
crap on the kid, but we had Samsonov in Washington and it didn't work out. When you look at the way he plays and Wall specifically, because Martin Jones is a flyer guy that they gave a cheap deal to, and he stepped in and been very admirable for them and wouldn't have even had to make an appearance if Samsonov hadn't faltered and Wall didn't get injured. When you look at those two young goalies in particular, though, for Toronto, Wall and Samsonov, do you see anything in the way they play the game, and obviously with refinements thrown in there to maybe get them playing a little better, do you see either of those two guys becoming that big goaltender that could push the Leafs further into the playoff picture someday?
I think Wall certainly could do that. I think Samsonov has sort of shown who he is. His true colors have come out. So the best you've seen out of him in Washington, the best you see out of him in Toronto isn't enough to get them over the line. So Samsonov isn't the answer. Wall might be the answer, but he's still 2 or 3 years removed of demonstrating durability and performing under pressure. Regular season goaltending is not Stanley Cup playoff goaltending. And you can't fall in love with the first girl you see at the dance. You got to wait till the lights come on when the bar is closing. And when the lights come on and the bars close, they're going to see that those goaltenders that they currently have aren't the answer. They're the redheaded stepchild.
I'm curious. I'm curious then, Steve. We're chatting with longtime goaltending coach Steve McKichan. And Steve, I'm curious specifically, and this is what Clarkey was talking about. I'm curious specifically with Samsonov. If you were to go on the ice with him one-on-one, what are some things that you would be telling that young man in terms of trying to improve his game? What needs to change in your mind?
I think technically he's doing everything fine. He's a middle of the road to top half NHL goalie caliber wise from technique and tactic. So nothing technique and tactic needs to change. I think with him, you just have to be worried exclusively about the present. He doesn't need to hear about what he needs to correct and what he doesn't need to correct, or that he, don't worry about this, don't worry about that. He just needs to do drills and just do work. You don't say shit about anything. He just got to do his day-to-day business and not worry about the future or the past. And he's got no major technical or tactical change that need to be changed in his game. He just needs to stay the course. Now, him at his best will be good enough for the team to challenge for a playoff spot and they won't go out 4 straight in the playoffs, but he's not going to be the guy that's going to get you to the promised land. And they need somebody that can do that. And the current roster isn't that.
You've been in the dressing room. You've been around the NHL team. Do you think it was the Leafs' plan the whole time not to play a game in the American Hockey League? As a fan, a lot of us wondered, why isn't he at least playing a game? But I guess if you go down and you fail at the American League level, it even hurts your psyche a little bit more. Do you think that was the plan the whole time? Just stay away, work on your game in practice, and then come back?
I think there might be some business structure reasons, contract-wise, with bringing up other people and sending people down, and the overall salary cap issue may have had some function in that. But as far as protecting his brain or protecting him from future embarrassment, I don't think that would have crossed their mind, because the NHL is a mercenary, cutthroat business. They don't give a crap about that stuff. I mean, if you can't handle the pressure in Toronto, you're playing in the Marlies. If you can't handle that, you're not ready to play in the NHL anyway. So they wouldn't be concerned about that. It was probably just to give him a rest and get his brain away from hockey. It wasn't they were afraid or they're protecting him from anything. It was more just get him out of the office for a little while and let him get his brain back focused on other things. When
you were with the Leafs, did they have a mental coach that would help the players? I know with Andrew Raycroft in particular, you asked me to put together a video of all his saves to show him and get his confidence up at one point. Did they have that kind of coach down there, or was that your job?
Well, generally for the team, Paul Dennis did a bunch of the stuff mentally with the players. But in Raycroft's case, he was a unique duck. I think the Toronto fans don't like to hear this, but when he was there, he set the record for the most wins in a season for the Leafs. And he was fine when he was a starter. And the problem with Razor was he very rarely went down in practice, and the guys could fill the net on him in practice. And he was game sharp because he was playing a lot. Once Vesa came in, and started playing more, and Ray Croft wasn't playing as much, he wasn't getting the high quality, real game realistic reps in practice, that's when these games started to fall apart because he wasn't that hard of a worker in the backup role in practice. And he's one of those guys who was just happy to be in the NHL. He could have been great, but he wasn't a guy that strived for greatness. He just wanted, he was just happy he made the NHL, and that was it, and married wealthy and moved on.
That's the thing with some of these guys that, is easy to forget, Steve. Like, we are talking about human beings. We're not all wired the exact same way. I am curious, though, when you're showing young kids and students that come to you for goaltending advice and to learn a little bit more about how to improve their game, who are some guys that are maybe playing in the NHL now, or even guys that you helped out over your career that you show them video of and say, this is exactly what you should be doing out there? Does any names spring to mind?
Sure. Like I like the common poise that Price had when he played. And I've got a goalie that I've trained since he was a little kid named Ryerson Leenders from Mississauga. And he's been one of my top students recently. He's got a lot of poise and calmness in his game, but I try to be realistic with kids and say, listen, there is an arbitrary cutoff in the NHL now. The average height is 6'3", and a lot of the scouting software won't even allow you to input goalies that are underneath 6 feet. So I always caution parents to realize that it's a requisite. And they'll say, well, what about UC Saros? And I say, well, that's an outlier. And UC Saros is the only guy that size in the NHL. And in that organization of Nashville, if there was an organization that would believe in a diminutive goalie, it should be Nashville. But the average height of the goalies, the 6 goalies beneath him in the Nashville organization, is 6'4". So if Nashville won't consider finding another smaller goalie, nobody will. So I try to not be discouraging to parents, but create a sense of realism. Yeah, play like Carey Price, play for fun, model yourself after that. And it's the same thing I said with Ryerson. He's 6'1", so he's past sort of that barometer of where it needs to be. But at the end of the day, you have to have the proper height. And if you don't, doesn't matter how you play.
I think I might know the answer to this, but who's the best goalie you've ever coached?
The next goalie.
Wow. That's a Tom Brady answer. I like that.
Yeah,
I thought you would have said Eddie.
He's not the best goalie I ever coached. He's the most accomplished as far as Hall of Famer and credentials and everything.
Yeah.
But you always look at athletes as they come to you. And like, I was so fortunate to be able to learn as much from him as he would have learned from me. But on a given day, I would be working with him, and he would make some time. We work with him at practice. And then that night I go work with a 7-year-old on how to hold their stick. And so in one day I'd work with a Hall of Famer and a 7-year-old. So my mindset is I don't really focus on the fact that I've got probably one of the best goalies coming up in the OHL draft, or worked with Eddie, who's a Hall of Famer. I'm going tonight to a clinic in Exeter where a kid doesn't care about that. They just care that they're going to learn how to get better today doing something.
Well, Steve, I can tell you're doing a great job, obviously, because I call games for the Guelph Storm and have seen Ryerson Leenders a lot. The kid he's a really good player. He's a really, really good young goaltender.
Ryan, I was going to say, go ahead, Steve.
He's a very good character guy, quiet. His parents are very down to earth, very realistic, not uppity, not, being the typical minor hockey parent. And having done this for over 35 years, there's a real lack of realism in parents not understanding how this works. And it's insane. And I'll give you one last little example related to that topic. So I tell kids, you want to do your best. You want to try to have a chance to play in the NHL if that's what your goal is, but you have to have a sense of realism. And if that discourages the kid, then you already know the answer anyways. But I'll say, for instance, take a look at Strathroy, Ontario. There's maybe 8 or 9 of us that have banners up in there that have played in the NHL. And people are like, well, yeah, that proves it can happen. I'm like, of course it does. But the NHL has been going for well over 100 years, and 9 of us have done it in Strathroy. So how many thousands of kids have played minor hockey in Strathroy in over 100 years? And so when you talk to kids, you say, set the bar high, try to become the best you can possibly be, but realize unless you're going to be 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", and an amazing dominant athlete, it's not going to be in the cards. You play for the love of the sport, not for an outcome.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
That's really good advice. And that really hit home to me. Like, it's all my size. I'm only 5'10". Like that's
That
why
was your only problem, Clarkey. That was your only problem. That and your 5-hole. Those two things. Remember, I shot on you before, Clarkey.
I know. You nearly killed me that day. It was
Yeah.
after a Leaf practice, Ryan, and Steve and I went on the ice, and he gave me a little lesson. First of all, I nearly died from exhaustion, and then he shot white pucks at me that I still haven't seen. But I learned a lot, and I'm still playing Keeks, and you know what? I'm getting better every day.
So all you want to do is get better every day. You're
Exactly.
I'd like to say you're getting better looking every day too, but
Yeah, I am.
we're not going to do that. Is this podcast on video or just audio?
It's video.
It'll be on
Jeez.
video. Yep.
Sorry about that. That's too bad, Clarkey.
Yeah. The Leafs are causing him stress. Steve, we really appreciate your time. We know you got to go and get down to one of these clinics. If someone was interested in reaching out to you or your school to potentially get some teaching, how can they do that?
Info@futurepro.com, and they can go to futurepro.com as our goalie stuff. We do Future Pro hockey, Future Pro golf, Future Pro soccer. We're into every sport through Future Pro. So just go to Future Pro online and you'll find us.
Nice.
Amazing
You got a
Steve
course for a
McKichan.
57-year-old too?
We do, yes.
Okay, perfect. I'll see you soon.
That's good.
We charge you
be
double,
sending,
Clarkey.
as you should. As you should.
Yeah.
Steve, we really appreciate this, man. Thanks so much for doing this.
All right, take care. See ya.
We'll be right back. We'll have more coming up next here. Of course, Couch Potato of the Week coming up next here on Instigating. Back to wrap things up here. Another week of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Thanks so much to our guests this week, man. We get great guests. Our buddy Phil Main, longtime morning voice of classic rock, now cool 94.5 on Blackburn Radio over in Wingham. Big Leaf fan, big Packers fan too. That story that he told us about how he became a Packers fan was just wild. I mean,
wild.
Hey,
it is absolutely wild.
If you're gonna, come up with a story of how you picked your favorite team, most people are like, I like their colors, I like this, whatever. You pick it when you're a little kid. That's about as interesting a tale as I can find. I'd say he landed on a pretty good franchise too. Bright days ahead for the Packers, despite the disappointment of the missed kick.
Young team,
how about their
how
about their coach after talking about Anders Carlson, their kicker, who missed the kick? They're not bringing him back, and he was a rookie kicker, and he said, "I just close my eyes and pray when he kicks the ball."
Do you think everyone in Buffalo do the same thing?
With Tyler Bass,
anybody, any kicker at any pivotal point in a game, boy, oh boy. I'm a sort of an anti-Bills guy, so I was laughing that it happened again. I just don't like the Bills. I don't like them. Just like people don't like the Leafs. I don't like the Bills. I can be like
generally
that.
People don't like the Leafs because they have a vested interest in another team. You don't even watch the NFL.
No, I just like seeing them lose. I don't know. It's just one of those things. I don't know.
See, that's bad karma, and I don't like that about you. Now
that's fine.
Okay.
There's probably a team you don't like to win either.
I don't care because we owned them for 20 years in New England. What do I care?
No, I'm not talking about the Bills. I'm just talking about in general, like the Penguins. And then I get it. You have a team.
Yeah, I hate the Penguins.
Rivals.
Why would I like them?
Right, I get it. I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
That's kind of what I'm saying, though. It's weird to me that you're
taking
you're carpet bombing the Bills right now. What's
I don't know.
Problem?
I'm just not a fan of Buffalo.
Did someone throw a drink in your face in a club in Buffalo?
I've been to Buffalo Sabre games, and I don't like the vibe there. And I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the town. I don't know.
You don't like the grit grinders down in Buffalo? I
no.
fit right in.
The only
there.
thing I like down there is
man.
the Bisons. I went to a Bisons game and liked it.
Okay.
Been to Sabre games.
Hey, to each his own. You do you. Just
go
be
KC.
warned.
I'm a KC fan right now. So that's why I don't like the Bills.
Okay, dude.
Patty Mahomes.
What are you putting money down or something? Is that why you're happy with KC? You got like a 6-way parlay? Okay.
Oh my gosh. Did that just how did that
Zoom
happen?
Zoom will do that now when that was great.
I had no idea that was gonna happen. Wow.
That was
there it is again.
Look at that. Hey. Zoom will do
this
point
thing
your fingers
now. Down. There you go. Wow, I had no idea. If you're not watching on video, you have to. It was amazing.
Zoom has this interactive technology now where it can trace if you're doing emojis.
My daughter just walked in the room. She hears me laughing. Yeah, look, Amanda, look. I do look. Wow. I was doing the Kelce
She's
thing.
like, whoa, cool.
Exactly. Anyway,
she's seen all this because Noodles, remember Noodles got caught with one of those on overdrive a while ago there.
No,
yeah.
I don't
By
remember
the
that.
way, did you see when they brought back the muchacho bit there, the Jeff
No.
O'Neill poncho thing? If you don't know what I'm talking about,
I saw the clip. Like,
oh my
video.
God, that might be the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. But you know, getting back to the guys, getting back
yes.
to Phil and to Steve, there's two guys.
Yeah,
like
Steve
we like
McKichan,
getting big name people on this show, and there's two big name local people. I think Phil's from Goderich and Steve's from Strathroy. I was at his house actually in Strathroy before he moved. He
resides up in Kettle Point.
Kettle Point,
still local.
Yeah, and coaching hockey. And as I said, he had me on the ice after Leaf practice. And I tell you, if it was in the era of the e-bug, people probably would have thought I was the e-bug for the night or something. But I nearly died.
Yeah.
Like, there's no question. He had me learning how to get up and down and push across faster than I used to, and I would nearly die. Like, there's no question. Anyway.
Well, yeah, the old one knee at a time approach.
No, that's what I do now.
It's not quite going to cut it.
Well, and Joe Bowen told us he doesn't even go down anymore.
No, well, why would he?
He's
Joe Bowen. It's almost rude to score on him. You put it right in the logo. You put it right in the logo.
No, there's no way people do that. Anyway,
Steve McKichan, future pro, and like he mentioned, they got soccer goal, football.
Yeah.
They got everything going on. I did not realize that it extended beyond the ice. So really impressive stuff. You got a young kid playing the goaltending position across multiple sports. Check that out, futurepro.com. Now we were talking a little bit, and he was not very gung-ho about Mr. Samsonov, despite a recent brilliant performance. It's the first time ever I think I can legitimately say he stole the Maple Leafs game.
He did. There's no question.
He absolutely stole that game. Yeah. Give me your breakdown, because the Leafs were they were horrible. They were awful. And Samsonov legitimately stole that game. That was a goalie win.
It was. And as Joe Bowen said to us a couple of weeks ago, that hasn't happened this year. They haven't had a game where a goalie stole a game. And
Wall did a couple.
He played well, but I think the Leafs scored a lot of goals in those games. Like, I don't remember a 1-0 win.
No,
anyway,
but there were ones where he made really big saves down the stretch of the game where people went, they wouldn't have won without him.
No, for
but
sure.
I know what you mean.
But like Samsonov, no question, stole the game.
Front to back, the best player.
No question about it. I'm just looking at my phone here and got a text last night at 8:18 from our friend Ian Doig. Boy, they're looking good tonight. I respond saying 0-0. He says, ha. Chuggy's even screaming at the TV. It's that bad. Then at the end of the second, I go, still 0-0. And then I took a little sentence from Steve Dangle's tweet last night. He says, okay, so this game hasn't been very good, but in spite of what's happened, you've generated 3 power plays, even though they stunk, and you're tied with the Jets after 2. If the third period is your best, you have a good chance of winning. And they did stink. There's no question about it. I'm glad Sheldon grew a pair and benched those guys because they needed to be. They were awful. And to allow a 2-0 shorthanded is probably one of the worst things you could ever do in a hockey game.
And those 2 saves Samsonov made on that were
unbelievable.
That'll be end of the year highlight reel, save of the year material.
You know what it looked like to me? It looked like the All-Star game funsies time. You know, when they go down and they like, that's what it looked like. It's like
it was a game.
Yeah, it was a real game. It was a real game and a real important 2 points. You know, at the end of the day, but I'm drinking the Kool-Aid more of the people who say this team's not going to do anything. Let's just leave it at that.
Well, it's hard. Sadly, it's hard when Steve McKichan, who's worked with a lot of good goaltenders and continues to work with great goaltenders like Ryerson Leaners. Look him up, by the way, Clarkey. And he plays for a team in blue and white too.
For sure.
You're familiar with Mississauga? Come on,
I am.
Once you get down there and watch Ryerson Leaners, he'll show you something. When a guy like him comes on the show and says, the goaltending's not good enough, even with a healthy Joseph Woll.
Do you think Aiden Hill, do you think they were talking like that last year about him?
No, but here's the thing.
I know
love
there's a
when
much
people do
different
this.
team. I know, I get it. That's what you're gonna say. I know.
Do you know what's crazy too? Like last night, they pointed this out. It's actually I was listening on Overdrive yesterday, and it was Noodles, I think, that pointed it out. Like the Leafs core four to collectively, what do they make? 44.35 million
Sure.
or something like that.
Sure.
The entire Jets forward core makes 37. Oh,
I know.
Whoa, hold on a sec here. Like I and that's what we're talking about. And that goes back to our conversation about the Nylander signing. It's great that you bought this Ferrari, but can you drive it in the environment you're in? That's why I made that Alaska reference when we had Jason Brooks on. Like, okay, great, you've got all these Ferraris. You can probably only drive one of them. Like, you can probably drive the Escalade in Alaska.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask this:
Can you drive the Bugatti? Can you drive the Lamborghini? Like,
do you think Edmonton
man.
has a shot at winning?
Yeah, of course they do. They have the two best players in the world on their team. Of course they do.
So they don't have a stud D, really. Like, I don't know.
Evan Bouchard's a really good player. He's better than every defenseman the Leafs have had in the last 20
and Skinner's
years.
Not a proven goalie.
Not really, but he's making the saves he needs. Dude, they've won a bajillion games.
So is Joe Wall. Anyway, I'm just saying.
I think Joe Wall has the potential to become a star goal. I really do. I do.
I do too.
The sample size is still too small, but the way that kid stepped in at his age,
right,
and done what he's done in some pressure situations, I've been impressed with the way he's done that. My worry for him is that he's continuing these injury stints, which plagued him in his junior career.
I know.
I'm really worried about that guy. Like, I want him to be healthy and have a legitimate shot here. It would be a great story too, because the Leafs haven't developed anybody in 400 years, so it would be a nice story for sure. Not so nice story coming out of London, obviously. And look, we can't
just touch on this, Ryan. There's
obviously, like we can't speculate. We touched on it when it first broke. Obviously, the alleged sexual assault involving members of the 2018 gold medal Canadian World Junior team at an event in London in June of 2018. 5 players have been summoned by the London police. Basically, legally, these people have to turn themselves over to police to be interviewed and potentially face sexual assault charges in just an awful scandal. It's terrible for the young woman that's going through this, who still wants to remain anonymous, and that's absolutely her right. And man, this is just not a good story. And then, of course, piling on as well, something people were also aware of. There's an investigation out in Nova Scotia involving the 2003 World Junior team. And, obviously what this really all boils down to, because we could speculate forever and people are doing it on social media. You don't need me to do it. This guy's
you can
coming,
do it
this
yourself.
guy's going.
You can put
There's
A and B together.
We can't do that here, guys.
We're not doing it.
Can't do that here. But it's happening, and the London police are going to hold a press conference on Monday, February 5th.
We'll find out a lot more then.
We're all going to be learning a lot more about a really awful story. And really what this boils down to is just, guys, we got to be better here. We got to raise better people. We got to make sure people are respectful of everybody, but particularly in cases like this, women. It's just, I can't believe it's 2024. I almost said 23. I can't believe it's 2024 and we have to have conversations like this. It's just baffling to me.
And like sweeping things under the carpet is the worst, because people knew about this. People knew about this.
Absolutely.
And
people knew. Well, Hockey Canada knew. They paid
exactly. That's what I mean.
They had a slush fund, and
it was a Chicoutimi, or was it Chicoutimi or Shawinigan or something?
Yeah, former Chicoutimi Saguenay's player.
Yeah,
is suing them
with
hazing stuff.
Yeah, with coaches on the bus. Like,
it's outrageous.
It is outrageous.
It's outrageous.
I don't know. The coaches should.
There's people that need to be. Absolutely. Like there's people that need to be held account for stuff like this. Like I work in the OHL now. I have a great time, being around the Guelph Storm. They're a first class organization. It's incredible. The people down there and the players are all great. They're great kids. I hope to God nothing like this is happening in the circles that I'm immediately in, and if they are, we'll be calling it to account. You can bet. But there's some people that really need to be called to account on things that have been happening in this sport. It's not right, and the players are guilty of it. There's players guilty of it with stuff like the hazing and sexual assault, and almost, it's all horrific, but almost worse, you've got adults that are responsible for these young men and for turning them into good people that are committing these acts as well and allowing hazing incidents and even,
and let's not say it's just hockey.
It's not just hockey.
It's not just Canada. Like, let's be honest.
No.
I know, but
we know that. We know that. Look, you want to spend a night on Google and get real depressed and look up some stuff that's happening in college sports down in the US or soccer
no, I don't.
over in Europe? You can go down a rabbit hole of some pretty horrific stuff out there.
I'm sure
and it's got to stop, man. These people aren't better than everybody else because they play a sport. And that mentality for some of these people is hard to let go of, obviously, and it's gross. And it's got to change. That's about all I got, Clarkey. We got a few minutes left here. We got to move on. We have to move on to our Conway Furniture Couch Potato of the Week. Let's get suited up.
Look what I found today.
Oh, look at this. Okay.
That was the 50th anniversary mug I had.
We're really geared up now.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up. 50th anniversary mug. Look.
No, but now it's 55. Now it's 55.
It's 55. And you see it there on our beautiful logo there, producer Adam. Conway Furniture's been around serving the community for a long time, ladies and gentlemen.
55 years,
probably. East end of Listowel. 55 years sounds about right. And you know what else sounds about right when you go in there? The prices. They include HST and delivery. Let me tell you what, you're not going to get a better deal than that. I mean, you could go out and spend $3.5 million on Ilya Samsonov, or you could go and get HST and delivery on a brand new couch. Okay. And on that note, Clarkey, I would like to take over. I would like to take. What? We usually let you go first.
No.
All right. Go. I would like to take the point. And Adam, you've got an image for me. All that needs to be said is one picture of this guy. And I bagged on this guy a lot. Producer Adam, he's got it ready. I bagged on this guy a lot. My couch potato is Ilya Samsonov in a good way. He can kick his feet up after his recent performances. And I'm not the type of guy to get too proud to go, oh, I was wrong and I won't say anything. I still don't believe, much like our friend Steve McKichan, that this is the guy that's going to get it done for the Leafs. But when you bag on a guy for poor performance and then he turns around and does what he did on Sunday and what he did largely even more so on Wednesday, a 1-0 shutout of one of the best teams in the league, I'm sorry. You got to allow Ilya Samsonov to kick his feet up and relax. He is my couch potato of the week. Are you shocked, Mr. Clark?
I'm a little shocked, but in the same vein, I'm not.
Got to give him his plaudits.
You got to give him his props. There's no doubt about it. And here's my question to you, Mr. Drury.
Okay.
Any team could have had this guy 3 weeks ago.
Any team didn't need him.
Well, not the way he was playing. If he strings off 5 more wins in a row, the Leafs trade him if they can.
Maybe, but it would depend on.
It depends on Joseph Wall if he's back, for sure.
Yeah.
And you have Marty Jones, and you know what?
I think they like
Samsonov's
that
gone anyway.
Parachute.
They're not bringing this guy back no matter what.
I don't think
he's not coming back.
Unless he pushes them into the conference final or something.
There's a lot of teams looking for a goalie. There's a lot of teams out there looking for a goalie, and the price tag seems to be high.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a lot. I wouldn't be shocked for a goalie like him right now.
Hey, as I said, if he remains hot, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, but then you're down a body, right? And the Leafs, and then Wall gets injured again, and now Martin Jones is the only guy. I don't know. You'd run yourself. That's not to say
I get that, but
you know what I mean.
But if they can get an asset for him, I say trade him.
Oh, if they could get like a second-round pick or even better, a defenseman, that knows how to defend.
This is leading into my couch potato. Okay,
a lot of love. Okay, what do you got,
Adam? Roll it when you can. And not that I want to be anti-Buffalo once again. Okay, but this guy made my weekend. He was a superstar. His Eagles got eliminated, and Kelce's there at the Bills game and showing kids Taylor Swift in the box. What a thrill for these kids. He's shirtless.
Yeah.
This is a professional athlete. It sounds like he's going to retire. He told some guys he's done.
He's retiring.
He's got a Chiefs hat on there, so that would probably be a good indicator. But look at this guy. Like, there's nothing better,
awesome, man.
Especially with the score the way it was. Taylor. There he is in the background.
I love this guy.
He's what sports is all about, and I wish more athletes were all about. There he is at the tailgate. He's walking around at the tailgate party.
He's doing the Buffalo bowling ball shot. It's incredible, dude. The guy's
I didn't see him bust a table. I didn't see him do that.
I don't think he went through a table, but it's incredible, and he's there supporting his brother, which is great. Their podcast is gigantic too,
and it's freezing cold. It's not warm. Everyone's got a jacket on, and he just keeps popping out at the game.
Dude, he stole the spotlight from Taylor, if anything.
He did.
Mean,
he took
the talk of the town.
He took the spotlight away from her for sure.
Jason, what a beauty!
The best
what
part,
a beauty.
Not the best part, but after that, as Travi and Jason did their podcast, they talked about it. Adam, roll it. Let's hear what they had to say about this whole event.
Down by taking off your shirt, screaming, jumping out of the suite, chugging a beer with the fans, then jumping back into the suite. I watched this and it was pure pandemonium. Just pandemonium. Tell you what, man, if you don't run for president, this all is just going to go to waste. This is all just it looks like a political campaign.
Stop. There's nothing political about this. This is just a man in his elements with his Bills Mafia compadres enjoying the dead of winter. That's what this is. I wish I would have stayed out there longer to actually get my nipples hard enough.
Your thermostats couldn't gauge how cold it was yet?
My thermostats didn't regulate to the temperature.
There was not enough cameras on the suite where you could see Kylie, though. I wanted to see her reaction to all of this so bad.
I'm not gonna lie, I gave Kylie a heads up. The moment we got into the suite, I said, I'm taking my shirt off and I'm jumping out of that suite. And she said, Jason, don't you dare. I was like, hey, just letting you know what's happening. I'm not asking for permission. I'm doing this.
Once a Kelce man's determined, there's no stopping him.
And she was already telling me to be on my best behavior because we were meeting Taylor.
This is hilarious.
I was like, Kylie, when I met you, the first day I met you, I was blacked out drunk and fell asleep at the bar. This is part of the charm. This is part of the Jason Kelce charm. I want to make my best first impression. This is my best chance.
My best first impression is the worst impression ever, so I could just build from that point on. Yeah, exactly.
A smart man. New heights. It's such a good show. If you don't watch it, man.
Had you seen that clip?
Yeah. I watched the show. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I was surprised. You know what I was surprised the most about? They hadn't met Taylor.
His brother and wife. Well, they've been busy games,
but
right?
yeah. I mean, she's probably the most popular figure in the world right now, and they hadn't met. But anyway, they met, and I love this whole thing. I just really do. Man. I think it's great. I think it's really
Athletes
great.
At their
good
best.
On those guys. Look good on those guys. Fun. Yeah. A couple of fun guys who are just enjoying life, and it's so nice to see. So they're my couch potato. Well, yeah, more Jason. My couch.
Both head into the Hall of Fame too, no doubt about it. All right, Clarkey, that was a fun one. Thanks to Phil Main. Thanks to Steve McKichan for joining us. Remember, you can watch this show Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 with our friends on Whiteman TV. That's channel 6 for Whiteman subscribers. We debut on our YouTube channel Friday nights at 9. You can follow us on social media at Instigating Pod. Remember to go see our friends at Conway Furniture, Larry Hudson Chevrolet Buick GMC. The deals are always hot. They're always hot.
Yep. 23 clear out.
Our friends.
They're still going
23 clear out. It's still going.
They got Come on and see me. Yep.
There's some stuff left, guys. And the deals.
There is.
Hot. And the Listowel squash courts. Visit our friends over there as well.
I played this week, by the way. I was
good.
Back at
I've been under the weather, so I haven't played. But next week, Al and I are back at it. I'm glad to hear you got back at it.
Tuesday night. Yeah, it was fun. It was good.
Adelaide, good for you. And you can do the same thing. Just visit the Listowel Squash Courts. Easy to sign up. 24/7 access to a beautiful facility. We'll be back next week with more Instigating.